Gentlemen, this is Long Walker, and we're doing a special today, live, on Martin Luther King Jr. Since it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I figured it's fitting. We're going to do about that and about the protest that he was raised with, and to the protest now with the Black Lives Matter movement. So I've got some videos prepped here, and we'll talk about them. So let's see what's up, and ladies and gentlemen, let's get this moving.
This nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
The content of character.
Yes.
And then look at the people that will be
Peace on earth.
I know. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got some good stuff lined up here. That was just a quick short introducing it. Now we're going on to a almost half an hour long segment here on Martin Luther King on the peaceful protests and stuff. So we'll review that, go over that, and then we're going to get into the Black Lives Matter and how destructive they are. So let's get on with it.
This Christmas season finds us a rather bewildered human race. We neither have peace within nor peace without. Everywhere, paralyzing fears harrow people by day and haunt them by night. And our world is sick with war. Everywhere we turn, we see its ominous possibilities. And yet, my friends, a Christmas hope for peace.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, I'm going to pause it right there because, as you can see, Martin Luther King Jr. never intended for violence to be brought out with these protests. They're supposed to be peaceful, meaning, you can stand in front of things, you can get in their way, but there should be no hitting, there should be no destruction of property.
It's usually pretty quiet.
It's usually pretty quiet and just done, to make a point, to show them what the point is.
We stand together. There's enough of us to make a difference.
Yes.
Enough of us that it's making an impact. The things that you're doing are making an impact on this whole group of people. That's the whole point of gathering together in large numbers. But rioting, destroying property, shutting down mom and pop
businesses. I mean, that's what they're doing. The Black Lives Matter movement has been literally shutting down mom and pop businesses which do not have the money nor insurance to rebuild. Where's the justice in that? What's that helping? Nothing. That's what. Let's move on.
And goodwill toward all men can no longer be dismissed as a kind of pious dream of some utopian hoper. If we don't have goodwill toward men in this world, we will destroy ourselves by the misuse of our own instruments and our own power. Yes. Wisdom born of experience should tell us that war is obsolete. There may have been a time when war served as a negative good by preventing the spread and growth of an evil force. But the very destructive power of modern weapons of warfare eliminates even the possibility that war may any longer serve as a negative good. And so if we assume that life is worth living, if we assume that mankind has a right to survive, then we must find an alternative to war. And so let us this morning explore the conditions for peace. And as we explore these conditions,
For all that he is talking, I can only imagine what he is thinking right now, looking down from wherever he is, heaven, whatever anybody wants to say. I would say heaven. What he's thinking. You know, I mean, he could have been reincarnated, but what he is thinking right now with the way that the BLM is acting, or the way any of them are handling the situation when he wanted war to be obsolete.
I was gonna say it's also any protesters now. I mean, the BLM was like the main focus of it because it was like they always kind of try to cite this sort of like racial injustice and everything. But even thinking about like the pro-Palestinian people,
for sure,
and anybody who's anti-war, they seem to get pretty violent when trying to prove their point.
Yeah.
So it just seems like, you know,
I mean, it's
counterpoint.
It's all over the trans community.
Yeah.
They get very, very like masculine in it.
And violent.
Yeah. So I mean, imagine that. Imagine what he is thinking.
Because he was at a point. How long ago? 50 years ago.
I believe so, because there was his father and then there was him. This is Junior.
I'm not really sure, but I mean, it's like he was at a point then where he was convinced that we were evolved enough not to have war.
Yeah.
And another, say, 50 years have passed.
And we went completely the opposite way.
Yeah. It's like they were worse off, more aggressive.
Yeah.
More violent, with less things to back it up.
Exactly. All that people want to do is just cause destruction.
Yeah. Like,
so I mean,
they're gonna be hurt.
Yeah, it tells you right there the way that humanity is going.
Yes, the evil.
Yes.
Like to suggest that modern man really go all out to study the meaning of nonviolence, its philosophy, and its strategy. We have experimented with the meaning of nonviolence in our struggle for racial justice in the United States. But now, the time has come for man to experiment with nonviolence in all areas of human conflict. And that means nonviolence on an international scale. Now, let me suggest first that if we are to have peace on earth, our loyalties must become ecumenical rather than sectional. No individual can live alone. No nation can live alone. And as long as we try, the more we're going to have war in this world. The judgment of God is upon us. Yes, sir. And we must either learn to live together as brothers, or we're all going to perish together as fools. Yes, as nations and individuals, we are interdependent. I've mentioned to you before of our visit to India some years ago. It was a marvelous experience. But I say to you this morning that there were those depressing moments. For how can one avoid being depressed when he sees with his own eyes evidences of millions of people going to bed hungry at night? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How can one avoid being depressed when he sees with his own eyes thousands of people sleeping on the sidewalks at night? More than 1 million people sleep on the sidewalks of Bombay, India every night. More than 500,000 sleep on the sidewalks of Calcutta every night. They have no houses to go in.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, here, just in the United States alone, in California, there are several places now that are filled with homeless people. I mean, we can't even take care of our own people.
San Francisco is just like
Yeah,
absolutely, it's like turned into a total city of
Yeah.
homelessness, like just completely.
Yeah, that whole
homeless.
city's pretty much gone to be homeless, and I mean, it's insane.
I hate to say it, but it was a, it was a, it was a place of excess.
Yep.
It was a place of, I mean, homosexual inclinations. It was a place of depravity for a while.
Yes.
And now there's just a huge homelessness problem. And so he's talking about like the streets of India.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if homelessness was even much of a problem when he made this speech. But now it's like he could be talking about our own country.
Yeah, I mean, he saw this.
It's incredible. And why? Because people can't come together.
Look at Los Angeles. Skid Row's always been bad. Not as bad as it is now. I mean, it's known as like tent city. It's crazy. And our own nation won't do anything about it. That's how bad everything has gotten.
And people will protest over everything.
Yeah.
Except that. There's no more.
Instead of
I'm gonna make more.
Instead of what really matters, they'll protest over everything else, and this is. Instead, they'll protest against everything but what truly should matter. And this has to stop. Somebody has got to start standing up and saying, hey, and there's a few of us out there. And I'm going to be one of those that starts, telling people, listen, this has to change. We have to start going back to our roots, to our families, and being as one, instead of allowing so much divorce to go on because I'm a little uncomfortable. This is stupid. Ladies and gentlemen, wake up. What's up, hon?
People are weak.
Yes.
Have no beds to sleep in. As I beheld these conditions, something within me cried out, can we in America stand idly by and not be concerned? And an answer came, oh no. And I started thinking about the fact that right here in our country, we spend millions of dollars every day to store surplus food. And I said to myself, I know where we can store that food free of charge. In the wrinkled stomachs of the millions of God's children in Asia and Africa, Latin America, and even in our own nation who go to bed hungry at night. It really boils down to this, that all life is interrelated. We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny, and whatever affects one directly, yes, sir, affects all indirectly. We are made to live together because of the interrelated structure of reality. And did you ever stop to think that you can't leave for your job in the morning without being dependent on most of the world? You get up in the morning and go to the bathroom and reach over for a sponge, and that's handed to you by a Pacific Islander. You reach for the bar of soap, and that's given to you at the hands of a Frenchman. And then you go in the kitchen to drink your coffee for the morning. That's poured in your cup by a South American. Or maybe you want tea. That's poured in your cup by a Chinese.
And another thing that I just wanted to go over was the excess that we talked about earlier, and how ridiculous it's gotten with that, to the point of everybody is like either on drugs, they have to have their coffee. I mean, something everybody is addicted to, one thing or another. And that's just the way that that the government is trying to make everybody. They want them that way. They want people as sheep. If people can open their eyes and truly see what's going on and what really matters, which is your own health, your family, and standing up for your rights that we have in this country, that's what really matters. Is taking care of one another.
Or maybe you're desirous of having cocoa for breakfast, and that's poured in your cup by a West African. And then you reach over for your toast, and that's given to you at the hands of an English-speaking farmer, not to mention the baker. And before you finish eating breakfast in the morning, you're dependent on more than half of the world. This is the way our universe is structured. It is its interrelated quality. We aren't going to have peace on earth until we recognize this basic fact of the interrelated structure of all reality. Now let me say, secondly, that if we're to have peace in the world, men and nations must embrace the nonviolent affirmation that ends and means must cohere. One of the great philosophical debates of history has been over the whole question of means and end. And there have always been those who argued that the end justifies the means, that the means really aren't important. The important thing is to get to the end you seek. So if you are seeking to develop a just society, the important thing is to get there, and the means really aren't important. Any means that will get you there. They may be violent, they may be untruthful means, they may even be unjust means to get to a just end. There have been those who have argued this throughout history. But we will never have peace in the world until men everywhere recognize that ends are not cut off from means, because the means represent the ideal in the making and the end in process. And ultimately, you can't reach good ends through evil means, because the means represent the seed and the end represents the tree. It's one of the strangest things that all of the great military geniuses of the world have talked about peace. The conquerors of old came killing in pursuit of peace. Alexander, Julius Caesar, Charlemagne, and Napoleon were akin in seeking a peaceful world order. Do you know, if you will read Mein Kampf close enough, Hitler contended that everything that he did in Germany was for peace. And the leaders of the world today talk eloquently about peace. Every time we drop our bombs in North Vietnam, President Johnson is talking eloquently about peace. Make this plain. What is the problem? They are talking about peace as a distant goal, as an end we seek. But one day we must come to see that peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but it is a means by which we arrive at that goal. We must pursue peaceful ends through peaceful means. All of this is saying that in the final analysis, means and ends must cohere, because the end is pre-existent in the means. and ultimately destructive means cannot bring about.
Exactly. There are no shortcuts, and I just wanted to pause it here and let people know too. In my opinion, one of the things that is missing in humanity that everybody just is letting go is spirituality. And that would help bring peace so much more closer to a reality if everybody would just have spirituality. I'm not talking about religion.
Yeah, because that divides.
Religion divides. Okay? I am talking about true spirituality, knowing who you are, knowing where you come from,
Where you're going.
knowing it.
The source.
The source. Okay? This is truthfully not being afraid of much.
I think you're right. A lot of the issues that I see today, it's like people, even with trans and even with dating, they
Yes.
have no faith. It's like they don't have faith in themselves and they don't have faith in a bigger picture. It's like all about controlling the here and the now and not having faith in what, just doing what you're supposed to do and having faith that it will work out for you.
Yes.
There is no faith. Like, not even any faith in science anymore. Everybody's just looking for external.
They want to find.
Validation.
I mean, you know, gender and sex, two separate things. I mean, they want to disprove God so bad.
Mm-hmm. And even recently, I can't say so recently, but within the past 10 years, I read an article about a guy who was an astrophysicist, not an astrophysicist, a biophysicist. And he had found a way to increase longevity in a human being to last, so that they live 300, 500 years, at which point he said, well, by then we'll have more advancements. There's no reason I can't see people living forever.
Yeah.
He literally said this. He says, we have been at the mercy, we have been slaves to Mother Nature for far too long. It's time to take control.
See, that's completely wrong. We are the caregivers to Mother Nature. We are supposed to help Mother Nature. We are not supposed to hinder or take away from Mother Nature.
And our immortality is through our offspring, who we teach to, again, take care of nature and work alongside nature and make things not progress, but, sustain.
Exactly.
Progressiveness is always leading to, like where we're at now. Progressive thinking, progressive inventions. It's like you're supposed to live in tandem with nature. So
exactly.
Our only immortality is our offspring and our teachings.
Yes. And if people knew their true spirituality and self, they would know that where we are right now is not the end.
Right.
There's so much more. This is just a small chapter within what we call life. And, I mean, people need to truthfully look inward. I mean, there is meditation is one of the best things that you can do to truly find out who you are. Yoga is a great way to connect and ground yourself with Mother Nature so that you can help and not hinder.
It's like he's talking about how there will never be peace on earth so long as we keep trying to solve things with violence, because everybody always says, we'll fight now and have peace later. We're fighting for peace, and it's like he gave all these examples, and I can think of a million more since he's been here over the past 50 or 60 years.
Exactly.
To this very day, that are complete examples of why that's never going to happen, because nobody will take individual accountability and decide, I am not going to react in violence. And now they have a new definition for violence. Everything is violence, apparently.
Yes.
If you disagree with them, it's violence. And it's like, you don't know what true violence is. And that's the root of all of this. And so it's like, unless you take individual accountability for you, your family, and choose to be non-reactive.
Yeah.
Everybody in the world has to do that. Everybody. All the nation's leaders would have to do that.
Exactly.
And I just can't see that. I can't see it happening.
Yeah, we don't, I mean, right now there are so many, separations that it just can't be.
Right.
We need to stop fighting this, all these little things and come together.
It's like, do you understand that there's a looming threat that would affect all people?
Yeah.
There's a looming threat that will affect every single person on this planet, but they choose to squabble over land and money and religion.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a shame.
Constructive ends. Now let me say The next thing we must be concerned about if we're to have peace on earth, goodwill toward men, must be the nonviolent affirmation of the sacredness of all human life. Life is sacred. Every man is somebody because he is a child of God. And so when we say, "Thou shalt not kill," we are really saying that human life is too sacred to be killed on the battlefields of the world. Man is more than a tiny vagary of whirling electrons out of whispered smoke from a limitless smoldering. Man is a child of God, made in his image, and therefore must be respected as such. Until men see this everywhere, until nations see this everywhere, we will be fighting wars.
60 years ago.
One day somebody should remind us that even though there may be political and ideological differences, the Vietnamese are our brothers. The Russians are our brothers. The Chinese are our brothers. And one day, we've got to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. For in Christ, there is neither Jew nor Gentile. In Christ, there is neither male nor female. In Christ, there is neither communist nor capitalist. In Christ, somehow, there is neither bond nor free. We are all one in Christ Jesus. And when we truly believe in the sacredness of human personality, we won't exploit people. We won't trample over people with iron feet of oppression. We won't kill anybody. There are three words for love in the Greek New Testament. One is the word eros. And eros is a sort of aesthetic, romantic love. Plato used to talk about it a great deal in his dialogues, the yearning of the soul for the realm of the divine. And there is and can always be something beautiful about eros, even in its expressions of romance. Some of the most beautiful love in all of the world has been expressed this way. Then the Greek language talks about phileo, which is another word for love. Phileo is a kind of intimate love between personal friends. This is the kind of love that you have for those people that you get along with well, and those that you like. On this level, you love because you are loved. You love those people that appeal to you and those that you like. Then the Greek language comes out with another word for love. It is the word agape. Agape is more than romantic love. It is more than friendship. Agape is understanding, creative, redemptive goodwill for all men. Agape is an overflowing love which seeks nothing in return. Theologians would say that it is the love of God operating in the human heart. And so when you rise to love on this level, you love all men, not because you like them, not because their ways appeal to you, but you love every man because God loves him. And this is what Jesus meant when he said, love your enemies. And I'm happy that he didn't say like your enemies, because there are some people that I find it pretty difficult to like. Like is an affectionate emotion, and I can't like anybody bombing my home. I can't like anybody who would exploit me. I can't like anybody who would trample over me with injustices. I can't like them. I can't like anybody who...
Yeah, he's really good on his speeches with all of this and his sermons, but yes, that is so true. It's, you don't have to like everyone. There are some people that make it almost difficult to like.
Yeah.
But your still universal love can be out there for everybody.
It's a
Because
very
everybody
difficult thing.
can change no matter the situation.
And they were still inherently born from the source.
Exactly.
And it's like I have a very difficult time with that because I have very intense, I guess you could say, dislike for certain people and the things that they've done to the planet, things that they do to their family.
Yes.
It's like I've even learned to look beyond that and be like, okay, we'll think of them as an infant. You know, it's like love them as they were when they were an infant. You know, before they were corrupted by the world. I think I struggled with my own mother, but I had God ask me once how I would describe her, and I said, well, she was well loved and respected by the people around her, not necessarily me, but she was she served her community well. So there's always usually something good to say about any situation. I mean, Hitler did some horrible things, but he was pretty admirable about keeping records and organizing it all and making it all happen and talking. And I mean, he was like a nobody, and he talked his way up to take over pretty much half the world.
And if people would have been nicer to him, this might not have happened.
Exactly.
What happened?
Yeah, there was some cruelty and there was some shaming, and
and to top with that, bullying has gotten worse in schools and has gotten worse in general.
Yeah, there's no compassion. There's no empathy.
I mean, up here alone, we see it all the time.
Even when we were in school, we had people kill themselves or try to kill other people because of the mental strain that they were going at because of their bullying, and then they go home and they're in a crappy, if it was like, if you were being bullied at school, I was bullied at school, he was bullied, but you come home and there's a break from it.
And you have a loving family.
Right, they rally behind you. They tell you this is not true. This is just they're acting that. But if you're coming home
to that same thing, then you're in danger.
Yeah.
Especially now with the internet.
Yeah.
Because it can follow you home now.
Yeah.
If you get on the computer and there's people on there that are doing it.
Yeah.
But you have to know how to let it roll off of you.
Right.
And not take it to heart.
And love your bully. Look beyond that.
Know that they were probably picked on too, and that's why they're doing it.
And are being picked on.
Yeah.
And who knows what kind of, because nobody acts like that just because they think it's like fun.
Yeah.
It's like you can't maintain
There's a reason.
kind of energy. Oh yeah, it's like, but it's very difficult for me to, love thy neighbor, so to speak. It's like they've done some really horrible things.
For sure.
But you have to also, again, have faith that they will get theirs in the end.
Yeah.
They will be judged, and they're probably actually living a pretty crappy life right now. So,
Exactly.
It's like there's no need for the hatred.
There isn't. Just live your best life.
Right.
Threatens to kill me day in and day out. Jesus reminds us that love is greater than like. Yes, sir. Love is understanding, creative, redemptive goodwill for all men. And I think this is where we are as a people in our struggle for racial justice. We can't ever give up. We must work passionately and unrelentingly for first-class citizenship. We must never let up in our determination to remove every vestige of segregation and discrimination from our nation. But we shall not in the process relinquish our privilege to love. I've seen too much hate to want to hate myself. I've seen hate on the faces of too many sheriffs, too many white citizens, counselors, and too many Klansmen of the South to want to hate myself. And every time I see it, I say to myself, hate is too great a burden to bear. Yes. And somehow, we must be able to stand up before our most bitter opponents and say, We shall match your capacity to inflict suffering by our capacity to endure suffering. We will meet your physical force with soul force. Do to us what you will, and we will still love you. We cannot in all good conscience obey your unjust laws and abide by the unjust system, because non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. And so throw us in jail. We will still love you. Bomb our homes and threaten our children, and as difficult as it is, we will still love you. Send your hooded perpetrators of violence into our communities at the midnight hour and drag us out on some wayside road and leave us half dead as you beat us, and we will still love you. Send your propaganda agents around the country and make it appear that we are not fit culturally and otherwise for integration, but we'll still love you. But be ye assured that we will wear you down by our capacity to suffer. And one day we will win our freedom. We will not only win freedom for ourselves, yes, we will so appeal to your heart and conscience that we will win you in the process. And our victory, yes, will be a double victory. And if that is to be peace on earth and goodwill toward men, we must finally believe in the ultimate morality of the universe. Believe that all reality hinges on moral foundations. Something must remind us of this as we somehow stand in the Christmas season and think of the Easter season simultaneously, for the two somehow go together. Christ came to show us the way. Men loved darkness rather than the light, and they crucified him. And that on Good Friday on the cross, it was still dark. But then Easter came, and Easter is an eternal reminder of the fact that truth-crushed earth will rise again. Easter justifies Carlyle in saying, no lie can live forever. And so this is our faith. And as we continue to hope for peace on earth and goodwill toward men, let us know that in the process, we have cosmic companionship. Yes. In 1963, on a sweltering August afternoon, we stood in Washington, D.C. We talked to the nation about many things. And toward the end of that afternoon, I tried to talk to the nation about a dream that I'd had. And I must confess to you today that not long after talking about that dream, I started seeing it turn into a nightmare. I remember the first time I saw that dream turned into a nightmare, just a few weeks after I had talked about it. It was when 4 beautiful, unoffending, innocent Negro girls were murdered in a church in Birmingham, Alabama. I watched that dream turn into a nightmare as I moved through the ghettos of the nation and saw my black brothers and sisters perishing on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. And saw the nation really doing nothing to grapple with the Negro's problem of poverty. I saw that dream turn into a nightmare as I watched my black brothers and sisters in the midst of anger and understandable outrage, in the midst of their hurt, in the midst of their disappointment, turn to misguided riots to try to solve that problem. I saw that dream turn to a nightmare as I watched the war in Vietnam escalate. And as I saw so-called military advisors, 16,000 strong, turn into fighting soldiers. And so today, some 500,000 American boys are fighting on Asian soil. Yes, I am personally the victim of deferred dreams, of blasted hopes. But in spite of that, I close today by saying I still have a dream. Because you know you can't give up in life. If you lose hope somehow, you lose that vitality that keeps life moving. You lose that courage to be, that quality that helps you to go on in spite of. And so today I still have a dream. Men will rise up and come to see that they are made to live together as brothers. I still have a dream this morning that one day every Negro in this country, every colored person in the world will be judged on the basis of the content of his character rather than the color of his skin. And every man will respect the dignity and worth of human personality. I still have a dream today that one day the idle industries of Appalachia will be revitalized. Empty stomachs of Mississippi will be filled, and brotherhood will be more than a few words at the end of a prayer, but the first order of business on every legislative agenda. I still have a dream today. And one day, justice will roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I still have a dream today that in all of our state houses and city halls, men will be elected to go there who will do justly and love mercy and walk humbly with their God. I still have a dream today that one day war will come to an end, that men will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. And nations will no longer rise up against nations, neither will they study war anymore. I still have a dream today that one day the lamb and the lion will lie down together, and every man will sit under his own vine and fig tree, and none shall be afraid. I still have a dream today that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill will be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. I still have a dream, and with this faith, we will be able to adjourn the councils of despair and bring new light into the dark chambers of pessimism. With this faith, we will be able to speed up the day when there will be peace on earth and goodwill toward men. It will be a glorious day. The morning stars will sing together, and the sons of God will shout for joy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this one I am going to skip. It's just about segregation. He got to talk about pretty much everything that I wanted to get covered. So we're going to go on to the BLM movement. I got a short, and then we got a 15-minute one explaining a lot more on it, and we'll talk as we go, and you'll get to hear my opinion on it too, and Daughter of Otten's. So let's move on with this, ladies and gentlemen.
Copy that. Here we go. All right, this is getting serious. Oh my goodness. Oh, wow.
Supposedly he was on the hood of the cop car, and the cop car drove away,
Holy
and he
Christmas.
went and just face planted into the.
So they're trampling him. They're trampling the person.
Oh
look
boy.
at second
Oh boy.
cruiser.
We've got two
cruisers that did that.
CHP cruisers.
That cop was trying to stop and look at the guy and make sure he was okay.
What is going on, guys? Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Click the ABC7 logo to subscribe to our Eyewitness News YouTube channel.
These were their last words.
See, ladies and gentlemen, that was the short. Now, as you see, I mean, we went from the protest that Martin Luther King and Martin Luther King Jr. did with just marching to people smashing in cop car windows, trying to sit on the car, and, well, you saw what that got the guy. I mean, who knows what condition he's in when the cop car drove away, but I mean, the cop was probably in fear for his life at that point, with them busting through the windows and stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And
there's a bunch of people.
Yeah, and you notice it's not just blacks doing this. There's quite a few whites you will see in a lot of these too. That's the crazy thing. You know,
they just want a reason to riot.
That's what I was gonna say. It's a reason to wreck things.
That's crazy.
This is pure on the the demons, the devils, just wanting to help raise hell.
Pure chaos.
Pure chaos.
King said in his speech, he says, let them come at us with anything. Let them come at us with force. Let them come at us with violence. Let them come at us with anything that they've got. Let them, burn our houses and take our children. We will not react. We will be peaceful. We will just be stoic, and we will just, endure. This is not that.
No. They're doing the exact same thing, and they're wondering why the cops are coming at them with force too.
Right.
And it's like, oh my god, this is unjust. This is not, no, it's justice because of what you're doing.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not a supporter of, I'm not a blind supporter of the blue line. I'm not just going to respect cops just because they're cops, and I'm not gonna, buy into this officer safety nonsense because they're trained for things.
Yes.
But you know something is wrong, you know that it's wrong, and you don't throw fire on it.
And make it worse, for sure.
Then you're just asking for trouble. You have to, shut up and be quiet, observe, and just take whatever they're going to dish out. Fight it in the legal court system if that's what you need to do.
Yes, and live your truth.
Yeah.
One of the guys that we follow is a lawyer, right? Yeah, civil rights lawyer. Yeah, he's a lawyer. Civil rights lawyer. He's on YouTube also, and we've learned a lot from him. But what does he say?
His tagline is "Freedom is scary.
Deal with it." Now, freedom is scary. Deal with it.
Most likely, if you're gonna have an encounter with the cop over something like that, you're going to go to jail. You just have to make sure you record it. Yep. Make sure that you know your truth. Make sure you have evidence to cite your truth.
Yes.
And then fight it in the court system. And don't take no for an answer on the local level if you're not satisfied with that. Yeah. If you fail at the local level, do it again and again and again, and take it all the way to the Supreme Court. I don't care what it takes, but you have to do it right.
You have to fight.
You have to have a lot of evidence.
And I mean that it's taught us a lot. I mean, there's a lot of things that you're not taught that you think, oh, we just have to go along with them. We just, they are law. When, as a United States citizen, you have rights. You have your, the 10 amendments, right?
No, there's 13 amendments.
13 amendments. Yeah. But anyway, you have those amendments. Yeah. You have your rights. Know them.
And, like I said, make sure you have evidence. Your evidence has to grossly outweigh their word, because their word carries much weight in the government.
Yes.
So I am all for protests. Protesting is the most American thing that you can possibly do.
Yeah.
Going back to the Boston Tea Party. But this is not the way to do it.
No, not by far.
I mean, to be fair, the Boston Tea Party was kind of destructive also. It kind of destroyed a bunch of people's money. The tea is gone. And then it kind of had environmental impacts, I'm sure. But, I mean, for the most part, throughout history, protests have been peaceful. But
exactly. This is not it.
Nobody's going to take you seriously.
No. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is my last video. It's a 15-minute one it's a bigger explanation of the Black Lives Matter. It's starting off with what I believe, because it says it right there, is Trayvon Martin. So let's see what goes on here. That's a lot of people.
Their names define a movement. Their deaths a rallying cry for justice.
is all quotes from all different people.
The killing of George Floyd has protesters demanding change, led by Black Lives Matter once again.
It's time for us to stand up in George's name and say, get your knee off our necks.
The Black Lives Matter group has been fighting to be heard since 2013, and the phrase itself is now being seen on streets and screens all over the world. But how did the movement get here? How did it begin? Their message comes from an urgent need to tackle police brutality, and the statistics are stark. Police killed more than 1,000 people in America in 2019. Black people are currently 3 times more likely to be killed by police, and 99% of killings by a police officer between 2013 to 2019 have not resulted in criminal charges.
Yeah.
But the Black Lives Matter bubble didn't actually start with police brutality. It began after the death of Trayvon Martin at the hands of an armed vigilante.
It is the story that no one can stop talking about, the shooting of Trayvon Martin.
On a February evening in 2012 in Sanford, Florida, Neighborhood Watch volunteer George Zimmerman called the police to report a suspicious person.
This guy looks like he's up to no good, or he's on drugs or something. It's raining and he's just walking around looking about.
Okay, and this guy, is he white, black, or Hispanic?
He looks black.
He's told not to approach the person in question.
Are you following him?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need you to do that.
Zimmerman ignored the instructions and started following 17-year-old Trayvon Martin.
The dispatcher told him
Moments
not to.
later, neighbors reported hearing gunfire.
There's gunshots. You just heard gunshots? Yes. How many? Just one.
Zimmerman accepted he shot Martin, claiming self-defense. He wasn't immediately charged. In fact, it took 44 days for him to be arrested, only after national media attention, a petition signed by more than 1 million people, and a public response from the then president.
You know, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon. We're going to get to the bottom of exactly what happened.
A year later, Zimmerman was found not guilty of all charges by a jury of 6 women, 5 of them white. The acquittal caused outrage and sparked the birth of a new kind of civil rights movement.
Long before there was a Black Lives Matter movement, there was a...
Okay, just looking at that alone tells me that guy is guilty. When the dispatcher told him, do not follow, he continued following, and then there was a gunshot. That alone is reason enough to declare that it was on purpose.
Yeah. They found out more stuff about him later on. He'd been in like previous cases for some sort of racism.
That guy?
Yeah, Zimmerman.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was really a screwed up situation. I do remember that.
But I mean, he was acquitted of the charges.
He was I think he was re-arrested later.
Yeah,
something else.
I'm sure they'll say more here in a minute.
Probably, but yeah, I remember it really was a screwed up situation, and they should say, should be the BLMT, even though that sounds like a sandwich and now I'm hungry. The Black Lives Matter too, because they just make it sound like they've made it, especially now, sound like it's only
Black lives. Right. Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, that's why we started coming back, and people started coming back saying, all lives matter. And I was like, well, that's true also, but it's like, I understand their plight. The statistics don't lie.
Yeah, exactly. And there is a problem there.
Yeah.
Not saying that there isn't. But the way that the BLM is going about it...
Yeah, it might have started off good, I don't know, but it got pretty violent pretty quick from what I remember.
Yeah.
Movement for Black Lives.
It comes as a great shock to discover that the country, which is your birthplace, and to which you owe your life and your identity, has not in its whole system of reality evolved any place for you.
BLM from its beginning was the continuation of a tradition and a remix of a much longer Black freedom struggle, but it has its roots in the labor of Black women.
After Zimmerman's acquittal, activist Alicia Garza posted on Facebook, "Black people, I love you. I love us. Our lives matter. Black lives matter." Garza's friend Patrice Couleur shared the final 3 words as a hashtag. On the 7th of March 2013, Black Lives Matter was first seen on Twitter. Writer and immigrant rights activist Opal Tometi offered to build social media platforms for it, where activists could connect with one another.
With this hashtag, new conversations were being created online and ultimately in our everyday lives.
Black Lives Matter is our call to action. It is a tool to reimagine a world where Black people are free to exist, free to live. It is a tool for our allies to show up differently for us.
The movement gained popularity in the summer of 2014, with Eric Garner's last words now a rallying cry, "I can't breathe," caught on video. The incident went viral. In July 2014, on a street in New York, Staten Island, 43-year-old Garner was arrested on suspicion of illegally selling cigarettes.
I did nothing. We sit here the whole time under our business.
He died in a confrontation with Officer Daniel Pantaleo after being placed in a chokehold. He was a father of 6. Pantaleo was fired 5 years later, but a state grand jury still refused to press criminal charges.
Black lives do not matter to this system. When you time and time again, you're seeing us being murdered, and time again, you're seeing the police.
Okay, I'm sorry. You know, I hear this Black lives don't matter to the system, but I'm sorry, in the system, no lives matter.
It's a poverty level thing.
Yeah, it's a poverty level thing. I mean, if you're in the lower class or mid class, you don't matter to them. You're just another body.
Yeah, you've been out with the homeless and everything.
Yes, I've been around a lot. And it's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's like once you're past that certain bracket, they look at you all the same. It's like, yeah, it's a specialized income level thing, you know.
If you can pay off the cops, and that's
right.
do that, and
you'll it's like, I don't care.
Go free.
I don't care what they say. It's like, our deal. It's like the paying off thing isn't what you think it is. It isn't like slipping them some money under the table.
Yeah.
It's paying their fees and their fines. And all of these things is how the cattle industry gets away with everything. That's how dog breeders get away with everything. It's like we've produced less than 2 litters here, and then people with licenses can produce like up to like 5 to 7 in a year.
Yeah,
and nobody bats an
to.
eyelash because they're quote unquote doing it right. To me, that's how they're paying him off, is by paying those fees and those fines, and they're so grossly exaggerated, especially here in California.
I know.
But yeah, I believe it's more of like a poverty level. Like, I don't want to say poverty level, but I think they say anything under like 26,000 or 30,000 is technically poverty level. And I see that's been the main factor with anybody who's had trouble with police or animal control or immigration or CPS. They're all under that $30,000 bracket. So,
and where we are, animal control is one of the most corrupt agencies around.
It's like there's been so many stories written about them, particular officers, and we have evidence of their lies, and they'll put their card on the gate, take a picture, and then take it away so you can't initiate contact, act like they've given us so much notice, but
you haven't.
Yeah. It's like, I want to get started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be for another story, another live.
Go free.
Just 2 months after Eric Garner's death, another fatal shooting.
There is growing outrage tonight after an unarmed African-American teenager was shot and killed by police in the St. Louis suburb of Ferguson, Missouri.
18-year-old Michael Brown allegedly stole a pack of cigarillos from a corner store. Police officer Darren Wilson shot Brown after suspecting him of being involved in the robbery.
Police shot this man for no reason.
Brown was due to start college 2 days after he was killed. For weeks, hundreds of people who'd never taken part in organized protests before took to the streets.
Hands up! Don't shoot!
More tear gas, more rubber bullets, anger boiled over. Ferguson's governor called in the National Guard. Black Lives Matter was used on Twitter over 50,000 times a day. Despite the anger surrounding the case, Darren Wilson wasn't prosecuted. He resigned from the force and said he acted in self-defense.
Ferguson and Michael Brown Jr. will be a defining moment on how this country deals with policing.
After Ferguson, the Black Lives Matter movement took root and gained momentum as black people continued to die at the hands of white police.
It was a cycle of killings, protests, and
no criminal charges.
No federal charges, no state criminal charges.
This was all happening with America's first black president and attorney general at the helm.
I chose to run for president at this moment in history because I believe deeply that we cannot solve the challenges of our time unless we solve them together.
Racial discrimination has been around since the founding of this country. To ask that the first black president fix that is asking too much.
This is lawyer Roy Austin. He worked in the White House as deputy assistant to President Obama in the Office of Urban Affairs, Justice and Opportunity.
We took a ton of steps under very difficult circumstances because there was this narrative that we were anti-police for taking these steps.
Some of the steps taken under Obama included issuing consent decrees. These allow the courts to overhaul police departments accused of civil rights abuses, putting limits on the ability of local police forces to have military-grade weapons, and more pattern and practice investigations into police departments.
So where are they using excessive force repeatedly? Where are they engaging in discriminatory policing repeatedly?
Activists at the time thought the administration should have been doing more to dismantle systems in place that were protecting the police.
Qualified immunity is a legal doctrine that essentially shields police from persecution or legal retribution. Police officers are protected by union contracts, which make it very difficult for them to be fired. Police officers have an all too cozy relationship with district attorneys. All these ingredients taken together create a culture where police officers are licensed to kill and almost always get away with it.
No justice! No justice! So even though Black Lives Matter representatives were invited to the Obama White House, they were also some of its harshest critics.
So their idea was, yes, show up, yes, be at the table. But if you don't get the kind of policy responses that you demand, then flip that table.
And then the table flipped totally in 2016.
Well, you see them marching, and you see them on occasion, at least, I've seen it, where they're essentially calling death to the police, and that's not acceptable.
In the years running up to the 2016 election, Black Lives Matter faced a backlash. Some started using the slogans All Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, and Blue Lives Matter in response.
When you say Black Lives Matter, that's inherently racist.
Well, I think their
Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, Asian Lives Matter, Hispanic Lives Matter. That's anti-American and it's racist.
America's police and law enforcement personnel are what separates civilization from total chaos. I am the law and order candidate.
Donald Trump's then election marked a new era for America and the world. The summer after the inauguration, racial tensions inflamed again.
Last night's torchlight protest march by the alt-right in Charlottesville, Virginia, has eerie echoes of the past.
Violence unfolded as white nationalists clashed with counter-protesters. A car accelerated into the crowd, killing a woman and leaving 5 others critically injured. President Trump failed to immediately call...
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what causes the issues. Now, the BLM movement in its own was good. It is how these people represent themselves and the Black Lives Matters organization. It is what has been done with the organization. That is the problem.
You saw how those ladies started out. They seemed really respectful, really well-mannered, really even-tempered, well-dressed. You know, they seemed like they were going about it fine. And then it evolved into this within a matter of, 3 years?
Yeah. And I mean, they're causing destruction. They're causing harm.
Yeah, there's damn well there's innocent people that are tangled up in these traffic things that happen. I mean, there's people just trying to go to work or pick up their kids or go to the goddamn grocery store, and it's like they don't have any reason to be tangled up in this mess.
No.
It's like, go pick at the police station, just the police station, if that's what your problem. Why do they have to do this?
They don't have to. They want to. Yeah. And that's the ridiculous part.
Out the white supremacists.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. On many sides.
The following year, violent hate crime in the States hit a 16-year high. Killings of black people at the hands of white police continued. It just barely made the news.
Donald Trump essentially sucked all the life and oxygen out of the media. Black Lives Matter was no longer, the lead story.
Many Americans were also enjoying the relative calm of a booming economy. African Americans had a record low unemployment rate of 5.4% in August 2019.
That shows his support for the black community. When the president says, I understand, I hear you, the president has people around him that look like me who get what's happening.
At the beginning of 2020, US election year, echoes of 2012 and 2013 hit the headlines again. Public outcry at the actions of vigilantes and a video gone viral.
We turn now to the case of Ahmaud Arbery, the unarmed African-American man who was shot and killed while out for a jog in his Georgia neighborhood.
I thought that Ahmaud's story would open the eyes of the leaders. I thought maybe with losing Ahmaud, it would help.
By the 21st of May, the men involved in the killing had been arrested and faced murder charges. But in less than a month after Arbery's death, Breonna Taylor was fatally shot by police in her own apartment in Louisville, Kentucky. No one was immediately arrested. In June, the FBI reopened an investigation. Breonna Taylor was an emergency room technician, yet her killing slipped largely under the radar as COVID-19 swept the U.S., disproportionately affecting communities of color.
I and many Black Americans are at higher risk for COVID.
Coronavirus is killing more African Americans.
African Americans bear the brunt of the economic downturn brought on by the coronavirus.
In Minneapolis, Minnesota, 46-year-old George Floyd was victim to these conditions. He'd lost his restaurant job and tested positive for COVID-19. Suspecting Floyd of using a forged $20 bill, police officer Derek Chauvin held his knee on his neck for several minutes. The world watched and started speaking out.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Certainly, with 40 million people unemployed, 100,000 Americans dead, a white nationalist in office, and then a televised public lynching, those are certainly the perfect conditions for the emergence of rebellion.
All 4 police officers involved in Floyd's killing were arrested on murder charges, brought about by that video, but also in part by the strength of Black Lives Matter protests across America and the world.
People of all backgrounds, genders, and races have come together to demand change. Honor them, honor George, and make the necessary changes that make law enforcement the solution.
In the run-up to Floyd's death, President Trump's critics have pointed to his dismantling of the steps Obama took to tackle racist policing. Those things we mentioned earlier, consent decrees, limiting military-grade weapons, expanding investigations into police units accused of abuses, have all been overturned under President Trump. Some campaigners are arguing for those measures to be reinstated and enforcing policies like banning chokeholds and better de-escalation training. But the Black Lives Matter movement is calling for a more radical solution. The group is demanding the money spent on policing should instead be spent on healthcare, education, and community programs.
The institution of the police is fundamentally corrupt, and many of us believe is unrepairable, right? It simply must end in its current formation. And that's a deep cultural conversation that takes a long time for us to figure out.
He angry at 46. I'm angry at 31. You angry at 16.
3 generations of African American men stood together here, looking for solutions.
Y'all come up with a better way. We ain't doing it. Oh my God.
A call to defund the police has been at the center of the Black Lives Matter campaign since 2016, but now it has media attention. Countries around the world are now working out what Black Lives Matter means to them, and campaigners hope that the year 2020 will be the last time they'll need to have protests like this again.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you saw that. Like I said, it's the way you go about it. Protesting itself is not bad. And I mean, yeah, there's a lot that needs to be worked out with the police department. As Dara Vaughton said, we need to defund it and have it picked up by private
By the people.
By the people.
Like, not
have it done differently. So that the government's not running it. That is part of the problem. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. Thank you for listening. Namaste. Have a great rest of your holiday. Take care. Don't mind me.